Okay, Sagittarius, welcome to Catalyst Energies and welcome to your full moon astrology forecast. We are looking at the Leo full moon on February 16th, 2022, and the major themes that are going to lead us out of this lunar cycle that started with a new moon in Aquarius. So if you haven't already listened to that and you want to get some context leading up to this full moon, that's a great place to go. It'll be linked in the description box, and it's just your new moon report for your sign. So this is Sagittarius rising, Sagittarius moon, and Sagittarius sun. We're going to be going into the areas of life in particular that the full moon leading up to the Pisces new moon on March 2nd, what areas of life are going to be impacted. And this series is really meant to show you through forecasting by my own read, how to read your chart and how to use your chart in reference to what's going on now. So there's a dual function here, and after this particular set of reports, this series is only going to be available to subscribers on Subscribestar. So that link is in the description box below, and you can support this process, support this work, support your own learning in astrology for $3 a month through Subscribestar at this point, and weekly Starseed meetups. So that's something that you may want to consider if you really like this format and you get a lot of value from these videos, because they do take a long time to do, and and a lot of, they just take a lot of production work. So, and I'm happy to do it. I love doing it. So Sagittarius, first we're going to look at this full moon, right? And I've talked about this a lot. Like I said, in the last forecast, talked a lot about leading up to this full moon. That's a grand square, and I have all these starseed alignments with it as well. But we want to focus on what's going to be happening from this culmination, because it's going to have a lot to do with the energy we take into the next lunation, which is a new moon in Pisces. So Sag, we're looking at a story that still has a lot to do, mostly with your individual process. The bottom of the chart here having to do with the individual process of growth. And it's not until you hit the 7th house and are at the top of the chart where you start to grow and evolve in context of relationship. And you see there's very little. Black Moon Lilith is about all there is here, giving you at least some sort of like primal survival urge to stay present with the form of your relationships, at least. But it's the full moon in Leo in your 9th house, about to move into the 10th house, right? Belief systems, a realm that Sagittarius is well versed in, belief systems and big picture, and really very complete understanding of the big picture. And so a lot of very binding, symbolic systems come out of the 9th house. And this is an area where you engage in higher education or advanced training, foreign travel, mystical travel, and just mysticism in general, the exploration, as we're talking about wisdom and understanding and alchemy, right? Alchemical transmutation through the meaning that is generated, or the power that is generated in the space of relationship. So when this full moon is exact, right, which it already is as of my recording, and you see that the nodes of the moon, so this soul's journey energy that we're all taking, is also part of this, and is in these areas that have to do with surrender, right? Surrender to yourself, surrender to your process, surrender to the habits and routines and service that condition you into a more purified or a more refined version of who you are, right? The best, and to allow something new within you to grow, your spirit to grow truly. It's because the spirit moves through you in the 5th house, through whatever passion or creative expression you have, and then it is what that allows to grow within you, which is something much more substantial, right? The 6th house is very much traditionally an earth house. It's Virgo. So Sag, a lot of the energy for the most part is about your own development right now, and you will have at the full moon an opportunity to see, in particular, if your mind and your mental faculties and the way you communicate, the way that you observe, the way that you utilize empirical reasoning and logic and learning, right? Also, the third house is the dialectic. It's competition. It is training or learning a skill, right? Like rote repetition, or getting all of the details or the instructions of something. This is about the mental realm and the nervous system. So what you get to see truly with this full moon, Sag, is if your focus and individual voice in terms of expression and mental faculties, if that is able to store, if what you know and your mind as a whole, and your expression of yourself through these types of activities, will it be able to store the amount of energy that has built up at the last degrees of Leo, which is the heart of the lion? It is Regulus. It is a miracle and it is the spirit finally bursting forward or out, right? But it also is can be very overwhelming and confusing because of the multiplicity of individual potential as the spirit moves through you so drastically. So Sag in the ninth house, which you're so familiar with, I mean, it's really a very strong sensitivity to the intensity of meaning and value and belief systems, and very advanced alchemical potentiality that you're going to be really tapping into. Will your mind and the anchor into ideas that Saturn is into your immediate reality and in your mind, is it going to be able to hold the intensity here in meaning and understanding and the realm of higher learning, right? And beliefs. I think this is going to be a lot of beliefs, collective belief systems, and the intensity of this pinnacle point here with this full moon. So, like I said, you can listen to the Pleiadian Revival and the New Moon Report to get a lot of information about the starseed and galactic aspects of this full moon. So we're going to move forward because this is just a remembering of and an opportunity to plug into and connect, at least at an emotional and a deeper subconscious level, with the collective. But you don't want to lose sight of the fact that so much of what's happening is down here in terms of your own personal and individual experience, Sag. So the first thing we're gonna look towards ultimately this third quarter moon, because it's gonna be in your first house, Sagittarius. So you're gonna find a lot of strength in yourself, I would say, by the time we get to next Wednesday, right? So a week from now. So if we actually were going to look at the weekend, which we can do right now, we're going to see some other, let's see here. We're going to see, I think, some other aspects that are going to be important, which is this opposition to Chiron, which is your fifth house of your creative expression. And then we'll be in a couple hours later, we'll be in a trine to Saturn here in your third house. So, and now the sun has moved into the fourth house by this point. Jupiter also is going to be in a sextile. So there's all these themes here, these connections that we're going to unpack a little bit here. So when we get to the weekend, the moon in the 11th house, you're really kind of feeling into the collective as a whole, and in terms of like your community, your larger associations and your larger social networks. Maybe it's your actual town you live in, or maybe it's the city that you live in, or municipality, or maybe it's just the global community, or it is your community of like-minded people. But it's a much larger context, and when you have the moon here, you tend to feel into this and pick up on not just your own feelings about it, but also picking up on the energy of the whole. The thing is that for Sag, Chiron and Aries, which has been a consistent source of poking at a wound, right? Like showing us where our wounds are of self and self-esteem, and even more base than that, like self-preservation, right? Aries is about a healthy ego because that's what allows us to survive in the universe, and so in material form. And this is the area we've all been struggling with, is to let go of the shackles of identities that are not really us, but we still feel pulled into different narratives and different stories. And for the Sag person, it's in the area of just your authenticity and your voice. That is when you express yourself, when you allow your sun to shine, right? And the fifth house is dating and romance, and it's taking risks, enjoying the thrill, getting excited, right? Passion and joy through some sort of rebirth, right? It is spirit moving through you. It's an experience of being and not necessarily doing, right? It's the sun. It's in this constant process of nuclear fusion that's just pumping out light and energy and sustaining everything around it, right? So this is, if Sag is getting pulled back into old stories about what you and who you should be when it comes to this, because, there's a lot of potential, an Aries in the fifth house, right? The confidence, and being so plugged into just like a self-preservation mode in this area can be very overconfident, or it can be very reckless. Okay. And so that's other things that are getting brought out, and that can either be reinforced, or that we're not allowing, ourselves to express as a Sag, express ourselves as much as we could, right? Because of these imposed stories. And so this is going to be more a part of, this is still a consistent part of the conversation for this next 2 weeks, but it's in this this opposition for Sag that you're feeling into the dynamics of the society in general and what's going on there. And how do you find a centralized point of your own ego and not getting pulled into taking some sort of emotional responsibility? That's the thing about Moon and Libra. It's so easy to just shift your emotional space to find a balance. But this that's also part of the Chiron thing, right? You're not allowing yourself still your own voice, because you're getting shamed into taking responsibility energetically entirely for something. This is a test, right? This is an opportunity to feel into that and be like, oh, that's what that is, and see what comes up. Because right after that is when the moon is then going to come into this trine with Saturn in your third house. And we already talked about how it's the full moon. The sun in the third house is your battery. Is this able to store the energy? And I would say that Saturn is a really interesting force right here, because it can make ideas and concepts really solidified, like completely inflexible. But also too, this can be such a strong anchor, or Saturn can be thought of as the black sun or a black hole, right? Like in its gravity is able to pull in or represents some sort of very distinct pattern that is not easily broken. So that's there too. And the moon is going to trine that and stabilize in your own mind what is, right? As you are feeling what is from a purely mental perspective in your mind, right? It's really going to anchor your mind as you are feeling, I would say, and anchor your thoughts as you are feeling into a very unbalanced social environment. Very, very, very possible, my friends. And let's see here. So you can see that aspect line, Sag, where it's a trine. Because I think that's important to just, there it is, right? And you see too that the moon or the sun and black moon Lilith in Cancer, they're also in a trine. So there's, these two are very similar to each other, and these two are not, but they have the same kind of like intense gravity, but for different reasons almost. And these two are still up here in the top of your chart. Anyway, that is over the weekend into Sunday. So then we start moving into more of the third quarter moon, because this is going to be in your first house. And I think we want to really take some time to address it. There we go. because you're going to feel a sense of strength within yourself, right? The moon in the first house, you're going to be very sensitive to your identity. You as a persona will become very sensitive, right? You may feel way more intuitive just in general by being yourself. But it's Moon and Sag, we really access a lot of emotional like strength because we are emotionally accessing the meaning of our relationships. It's what catalyzes these alchemical reactions. It's the actual bringing together of people based on this meaning and having them act, right? It's the friction of starting the fire that then, and it's the chemical reaction of the heat of the fire that changes actual and creates something new. So I mean, there's a lot of strength here. It's like the waters within us, like boiling and creating steam, and steam is so powerful on many levels. Here's the thing, though: these quarter moons are a real pain in the ass, and the full moon may be like a heightened sense of feeling, which leads to people acting kind of, crazy in some ways and just way more emotionally driven, but also too, it's these quarter moons where we're not getting the full picture anymore, even with the sun's illumination, and that is a crisis point. And so with the moon in your first house, Sag, I mean, you're going to be, I think feeling into very strong Sag, like your strength is your wisdom and your big picture understanding and your team player, right? All those Sag qualities. But you now have the sun here in this fourth house, and this is where the next new moon is going to be. This is a conversation that Mars and Venus are having with Neptune as well, and Uranus is part of this conversation with both the sun, then the new moon, and Jupiter during this time. And this is about your intimate home life, your family life, your inner life, and like where you are stabilized so you can like allow your emotional waters to deepen, right? This is the fourth house. And so this can be, your family of origin and the customs and traditions that are part of it. This could be your marriage and what the bonds are of that relationship and your family, right? Spiritual community, inner life, psychic life. Moon in Cancer is like, this is the fourth house. So the sun being here is and Neptune being here and Jupiter, there's such an expansion and such a deepening and such a widening of the bounds of your root system. And now the sun is here, and it is time for these roots to really start growing. Okay, and it's going to be in terms of your emotional self, whereas how you feel and where you're gathering your strength is in this moment going to feel like it's going to be coming from your identity, and you don't. I think Sag, the temptation here is to lean into the discomfort that's really pulling you into a place that is way more about who holds you, right? Where do you feel safe? That is much more about not your identity, but your bonds. And your inner life. And, Jupiter's your ruler, and it's here now expanding, and your expansion is by deepening your own core and your own root system. And this is where the sun is now. I mean, this is it. So maybe your family's expanding. Maybe your inner life is deepening in some way. Maybe you are being challenged to let go of old traditions in order to really tap into a transcendental family, a spiritual family, and to really find yourself in this realm. Okay, this is the conversation is leading up to this point. So Mercury is also. Mercury's going to come out of shadow and is going to sextile Chiron. So we've already talked about Chiron and the wounding of you just expressing who you are. So we'll get to that. But when it comes to Neptune in this place, which really has for years been challenging the Sag person to put, to dissolve what has already been there in terms of roots and customs and really expand into the infinite waters, right? And so now that your ruler is here, it's really been giving a lot of meaning to this. And with the sun here, it's certainly going to give you spiritual sustenance to really focus here. Now, what's going to support this? Well, Mars and Venus are traveling together, and not only are they conjunct at the full moon, really releasing some, there's some dead weight, Sag, like in a really fixed way in your physical reality, your assets, the means of your income generation, your ancient traditions, like your physical nature, like your genetics, or the actual house you live in, your material assets, all of these very material things that you identify as yours, and your wealth, just implicitly, whatever it is, right? It's time to go, and it's been time to go for a very long time, and now it's Venus and Mars coming together and initiating a new growth period, right? And so this at the full moon is the release from the bondage, whatever it is, right? It may be very dramatic for Sag because it's in a very physical way, in a very material and something that's providing for you type of way. But Pluto's been setting the stage for this for quite a while, so it shouldn't be that really shocking necessarily. And now at this third quarter moon, where you have the moon in your first house, when these two in succession come into a sextile to Neptune, it's like something's going to get balanced out. There's a recompense in both Venus, so your sensitivity to the material world, and also Mars, your output as well. And each of them there's a balancing accounts. There is a recompense. There is something being provided to those who have put forward their energy to contribute to society. There is a return, right? And so each of them are going to express that, and that return is getting funneled in or sent to, in this sextile to Neptune, into your inner life, right? It's going to not only release something, but something new is, once this balancing happens, it's going to refresh in some ways, or give some sort of substance to build an island or something, in this realm, but give you something to hold on to. Maybe give some sort of substance or surface for these roots to eventually latch onto, now that they have been had this infinite space to stretch out in. Okay, and I think this is something very material: a job, a house, your anatomy, right? Your wealth, and anything, the land you live on, your ancestral traditions, all of these fixed earth things. This is your assets. What is yours? The objective reality. Something it will be released and rebalanced, and it's going to really support this process with Neptune in your fourth house, your inner and emotional life, your personal life. So, and then you have Mercury that's about to come out of its shadow and not only sextile Chiron, but it's going to square Uranus too. So, Mercury in Aquarius in the third house, Sag, you are really just processing a whole new level of information, right? You're getting the full zip files right into your third eye, and you have to, and unzipping them, finding patterns, finding logical progressions, about society, about humanity, about the larger context. And so, that's going to, I think things are really accelerating for Sag. Wow. This can be applied to, letting go of the old identities that keep you from being reborn, and to shine your voice forward and out, right? We need your heart to open, and that seems to be the place where Sag keeps shutting down because of Chiron. So, one of your incredible assets, Sag, is a genius intellect, right? Aquarius is the third house, is pretty significant in that way, and the ability to really see the bigger patterns in the world around you in a very mental way. And so there may be times where your heart is shut down or it's being blocked, but this can really help, just get that shit out of the way, right? Just squeegee the third eye and and utilize like a sound and balanced mental process to initiate better internal dialogue for yourself, right? And I think that you'll get to see like just how powerful you really are in this realm to make have a real impact when Mercury actually meets Saturn at the new moon. So this is, and then Mercury comes out of post retrograde shadow. So then it's going to start into new territory after it is a square to Uranus. Because for as much as you were like really processing things in a way now that is next level, right? Big, huge, the full, like I said, full zip files coming in that need to then be unzipped and extracted at really rapid rates. I think that for as much as that's happening, you still have to deal with the very real and very disruptive, or possibly, it could be innovative, but it's not very stable, everyday routine and reality. It seems like that this is just going to make that even worse, possibly. So it's important to find a way to be grounded and stabilized. And I think really you're going to find it here in the fourth house in terms of your spiritual life, your inner life, and what you are, how you're expressing yourself through your inner life and in your family, right? So, that's going to be interesting. This time frame is going to be where things really are difficult. And so don't get confused with your sense of identity and how you feel in that realm as like your only strength, right? Because your family is really, whatever that means to you, is really going to be, you can really be an example here by the time the next new moon rolls around, which let's look at that actually. Let's look at it. Okay, so we are looking at the 2nd of March, and so here is the moon and the sun. This is a starseed marking. This is Syrian starseed marking, and Jupiter's along for the ride, so that's your ruler. So this is a really big lead up to this next new moon for Sag people, because like I said, Jupiter's here, the new moon is here. It's a galactic marking. It's up to 13 degrees of Pisces, which is like an avatar in terms of galactic degrees. And an avatar in Pisces is the Christ consciousness. It is the unconditional love and agape and humanitarian, well, not even humanitarian, like true unconditional love and compassion. And Sag people in their in their family, in their close bonds, in their inner life, they can really start becoming an example of that in their own self and in their own life, and even really expand themselves through that. So this is very powerful for Sag, and it's going to have an impact. It's going to be kind of almost stabilizing something that doesn't have any real stabilization, which is Uranus here, and giving you something, I think, a routine to work with, some sort of practice maybe, that can develop, or another habit, or another, getting rid of an attachment, or just, transcending a specific outdated method of doing things, right? Innovating, thinking ahead, and acting in the future. And certainly, considering all of the options right now of how you can go about your daily life. There's not a lot of stability, but this is the direction of our soul's evolution right now. So this is definitely a place you want to be focusing anyway, Sag, is in what you're doing with your time and your daily life and your daily activities. So in the meantime, the new moon is going to provide an opportunity for the Sag person to really find themselves and become a symbol of courage and that galactic avatar in their most intimate relationships and home and family and identity. Okay. And of course, we're talking about the fourth house being for Sag in a water sign, and Black Moon Lilith is also looks to be very involved in this story, and she's in Cancer in the 8th house. So also too, it will bring up issues of shared space, cooperation, communion, and power, right? Power generation, which is about the family. Look at that. And protection and a sense of containment in some ways. Still waters run deep, right? And so that's a way to go very deep is when you have strong boundaries, Sagittarius. Those boundaries are going to reinforce themselves. But again, it's going to allow you to go so deep into that, to those Pisces themes and really find yourself. So Sag, I'm going to leave it there for you for this report. So thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. If you're interested in a reading, you're interested in energy work to support your process, you can go to the website and check out the services and book something through there. Or you can be a member through Subscribestar, and you can have access to these reports, and you can have access to weekly meetups for Starseeds for $3 a month. And there's going to be information at the end of this video about that as well. So Sag, take care of yourself. Enjoy the possibilities that this full moon is bringing towards all of us, and enjoy coming down the other side of this roller coaster hill, which is really what's about to happen. And you're in a position, I think, to really find the meaning and transfer it in some way to the rest of us. You Sag people really are able to read the full picture. So important roles to play. Thanks, Sagittarius. I'll see you on the next video.